When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases, but the righteous shall see their fall. Welcome to the C Files, folks. Music that doesn't have a copyright. Oh, don't that sound awesome? And that is what the deep state's going to do. Cut out. That was a Mopar. All right. So, folks, welcome to the C Files. Thanks for joining me. I'll try not to bore you to tears if I can help it. Okay, so let's begin with your little ones. Little tights, right? 1 to 8-year-olds. The Tavistock Institute, which did a lot of research on this, funded by the CIA, MI6, mainly those two intelligence agencies. Maybe Israel's intelligence agency was involved as well. But I know MI6 and CIA were involved in the Tavistock Institute and the research. Okay, I try not to make all this noise with this old rickety chair that I'm sitting in. I get excited and want to throw my hands around. According to their research, if you can indoctrinate a child before the age of 8, you can indoctrinate them for life. Now, we as Christians know that there's an exception to that rule, and that is the Word of God and the Holy Spirit. God Almighty can overcome that indoctrination. Greater is He that is in us than he that is in the world. And that would be evil men and the serpent who deceived Eve in the garden. So, it's important to protect and guard your children. And I wanted to start out with this because this is so vitally important. It is the goal of the deep state, the New World Order, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. Klaus Schwab and the boys, I like to say, to indoctrinate your children before the age of 8 so that they can control their minds for life. And if they can control the minds of your children for life, they can get pretty much what they want politically, economically, socially, psychologically, and every other way. And if they can control them in that way, whatever sinister plan they have, they can go ahead and implement that plan because they've got control of the population. Now, that will never work because the Holy Spirit is still working in our world. God is still expanding His kingdom. And God's not going to tolerate their childish, idiotic nonsense that they're trying to push onto the world. So, protect your children. Now, what are they doing? The cartoons that they're putting out now promote things like sexual perversion, Satanism, the worship of Satan, and cyborgs. I saw one recently. I saw a glimpse of one where a cyborg was in the cartoon. Now, they make it look innocent to the parents and innocent to the children, but if you're discerning, you'll be able to pick up on the indoctrination that they're trying to push onto the children. Folks, you're going to have to, as parents, to take control of your children's lives. Protect them from this sinister agenda that is being played out against them. You have to learn how to be parents and protect your children. Why are parents taking their children to drag queen shows? You ever wondered that? It's because they don't have any sense of protecting their children from that which is sinister and evil. It's because they're willing to subject their children to that kind of sinister indoctrination and poison the minds of their children for the rest of their life. These parents, I believe, are committing child abuse. And they're going to be held accountable for their actions, held accountable for what they do. So I wanted to start out with that because it is so vitally important. Now let's go, see if I can find it. All right, not there. Let's go to the Gateway Pundit for a moment. Jump through the hoops. Okay, there's a showdown. We talked about the showdown on the border of Mexico. Texas National Guard installs more razor wire amid escalating border battle with the Biden regime. Now, there's some statements that were put out. Let's see if we can find it. So Attorney General Ken Paxton, he said, today I denied the Biden administration's unfounded request and issued counter demands. By February 15, DHS must supply the official plat maps and deeds demonstrating the precise parcels to which they claim ownership, talking about Shelby Park, an explanation of how Texas is preventing access to those. See if I can get the rest of it. Had to run. It takes me to X, and it didn't take me where I wanted to go. All right. So let me go back. I couldn't get the show more. Open. I'll try it one more time. There it is. So he says he wants the partials. He wants the deeds to the partial. In other words, he's wanting the federal government to prove that they actually own Shelby Park. I love it. But I'm going to have something in a moment that's going to shock you. DHS must supply the official plat maps and deeds demonstrating the precise parcels to which they claim ownership, an explanation of how Texas is preventing access to those specific parcels, documentation showing that Eagle Pass or Texas ever granted permission for DHS to erect infrastructure that interferes with border security, and proof of Congress empowering DHS to turn a Texas park into an unofficial, illegal port of entry. If the federal government is going to make such claims, it must provide proof. What a concept. Presumably because you have no meaningful response to our letter. Your latest letter abandons earlier factual assertions, asserts new ones, and supplies even less of a legal basis for your demand. Once again, I respectfully suggest that any time you might spend suing Texas should be redirected toward enforcing the immigration laws Congress already has on the books. As I said before, this office will continue to defend Texas' efforts to protect its southern border against every effort by the Biden administration to undermine the state's constitutional right of self-defense. And that would be found, folks, in the 10th Amendment. Well, there's more statements. There was a statement by Governor Abbott, and he said this: the executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4, has triggered Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. The authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. Now, the articles it's talking about are articles in the Constitution. Oh, look, I didn't have a copy of the Constitution. Oh, how about that? Well, let's see what we have here. All right. Let me get over here. Get on over here. Get over past the meaning of the Constitution, formation of the Constitution, to the Constitution. So here we have Article 1. We'll see Section 10. And 4. So this would be the paragraph I do believe it's talking about. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with any other state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invade it, or in imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Would you say Texas and maybe a whole bunch of other states are in imminent danger right now from this mass immigration? I would say so. Especially when you have terrorists coming across the border saying, oh, you don't know who I am? Well, you'll know soon. And then they do some fact checking and find out the guy was a Middle East known terrorist who'd spent time in prison and doesn't have the best of intents, shall we say, for our country. And how many of these folks have slipped across the border? So that's the article that was being invoked. Now, there's a little problem, though. Let me see if I can get in here. There's a little problem. Tonight, a new video from the border standoff in Texas is telling a different story than the mainstream media's headlines are indicating. So what's true? Independent journalist Taylor Kramer joins Ivory on the Gateway Pundit with the latest from the U.S.-Mexican border, along with the latest on the impeachment of DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. So, what does he have to tell? Let's find out.
I'm Ivory Hecker, and this is Gateway Beyond the Headlines. Tonight, new video from the border standoff in Texas tells a different story than the headlines are indicating. So what's true? We have an independent journalist on the ground joining the show with what's really going on in the fight to secure the U.S. southern border. Plus, 3 U.S. troops have been killed in Jordan, and leaders in Washington are using it to push us towards war with Iran. Veteran Green Beret and congressional candidate Joe Kent predicted this would happen, saying the troops were left there as bait. He joins the show today to explain. And the Biden campaign getting all hands on deck with his rating numbers not so good. Democrats hope that adding Clinton and Obama to the campaign trail could help. That and much more on Gateway Beyond the Headlines.
All right, so turn that down. So this reporter is going to have some interesting things to say, because apparently this whole border conflict, there might not be as much to it as we originally thought. Man, thought we're heading toward a civil war. Maybe not so quick.
Border continues. Matt Finn tweeted this new video of the Texas National Guard erecting more fences, even as the Supreme Court has given Border Patrol authority to continue taking those fences down. And Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says he is denying the Biden administration's unfounded requests and issuing counter demands when it comes to a key border crossing point in Eagle Pass, Texas. You'll recall earlier this month we reported that Texas seized Shelby Park Park, a city park along the Rio Grande that borders Mexico. Border Patrol had taken over the park and was using it to pick migrants up and bring them on into the U.S. Well, Shelby Park is not a port of entry, and Texas officials wanted the Biden administration to stop using it as such. So we heard in the news that they did something unheard of, and state officials kicked federal officials out of that area, so we were told. Well, now the Texas Attorney General says the Biden administration has demanded that they give that city park back to the feds and that Texas stop trying to enforce the border. Paxton says he is not budging. He says if the feds at DHS think the park is theirs, they need to provide the plat maps and deeds that show exactly what they own. Paxton wrote that the feds also need to provide, quote, an explanation of how Texas is preventing access to those specific parcels, and also provide, quote, documentation showing that Eagle Pass or Texas ever granted permission for DHS to erect infrastructure that interferes with border security, and proof of Congress empowering DHS to turn a Texas park into an unofficial and illegal port of entry. If the federal government is going to make such claims, Paxton said it must provide proof. Now, check out this new video put out yesterday from independent journalist JLR Investigates, because video speaks louder than words. This is the southeast part of Shelby Park. That's the unfinished border wall, and it's the same park where Texas officials has reportedly...
Okay, so you have a hole in the fence here, a gateway. Border Patrol vehicle just drove in to that area.
Over and kicked out Border Patrol. But you can see in this video, a Biden Border Patrol van drives right into the park and picks up migrants from an unmarked van, then takes them away for processing. Fox reporter Bill Malugin, who has spent a lot of time at the border, said that this is not smuggling, it's just standard procedure for state officials to pass migrants off to federal agents who take migrants in for processing, and yes, majority of those migrants are released into the U.S.
Did you catch that, folks? This quarter or half mile stretch of fence, Eagle Pass, Shelby Park, is the big controversy. There was another guy, I saw a video on YouTube of a guy who actually went down the border, filmed it himself. He drives half a mile down from Eagle Pass, and there's gaps in the fence, gates standing wide open. Anybody could just walk right through. He drives a little bit further down, a gate that's chained up. Drives a little bit further down, another gap in the fence, no gate at all. There's not even a gate there. Anybody could just walk right through from Mexico into the United States. And was anybody there guarding those areas or checking those? Nope, nothing. But you go back down about a mile or a mile and a half, Eagle Pass, there's guys out there with the, when I was in the military, it was M16, now it's M4. They have the M4s. They got wire everywhere, got the big, trailers that the semis pull, all stacked up. Looking good. Almost like it's a photo op.
Let's see, if migrants were smuggled all the way to our border and the feds finished the task by welcoming those migrants through an illegal crossing area in violation of immigration law, putting them in a warm Border Patrol van and taking them to a location where they can get plane tickets to their new home deep inside the country, that is something the American people are now calling smuggling. Of course the feds aren't going to say it's smuggling, because they hand the migrants a piece of paper that says in 7 years they need to appear in court. But it sure looks like taxpayer-funded smuggling to me.
Seven, count them for you guys who are in grade school. 7 years. 7 years. How much damage could be done by some of these folks in 7 years? The reporter that she's going to bring on, see if I can get him on. He he's going to say basically the same thing. So let's
Thank you for having me, Ivory. Well, I mean,
take
it's
a
just
look.
business as usual, just with more and more theatrics. That's what we're seeing. And I would say you're absolutely right. This is smuggling. I've seen it from Panama all the way up to here. It's the same thing. Senate front is just like Border Patrol in Panama, same thing. And they keep them moving north. They keep all the illegal aliens moving north. Border Patrol does the same thing, moves them north to Chicago, New York, wherever else.
Okay, so when you're out there filming this time lapse of Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, where Governor Abbott has taken over, Abbott's saying, we took over, we kicked Border Patrol out, we're now fortifying this area and no illegal aliens are going to come through. That's what Abbott's saying, but when you're on the ground there, what are you seeing?
So in the immediate area of Shelby Park, where you see all the sea containers and all the sea wire right there, they have somewhat kicked out Border Patrol. Border Patrol is not there en masse. They are allowed to launch boats from the boat ramp there and recover their boats. So you will see Border Patrol vehicles go in and out of the gate.
Okay, and also that video I just showed from just down the park, just half mile down the park, Border Patrol is going right into the park still. So it seems like, I don't know, I don't know where the disconnect is. I want to believe that Governor Abbott is trying to fortify his border, but it's almost like it's a photo op right at Shelby Park, and then the same old trafficking of migrants in is happening on either side of the park and all down the rest of the stretch of Texas, is it not?
Absolutely. So not a lot of people are going to be crossing right there in Shelby Park. It's highly fortified. They have National Guard everywhere. That's not a place that traffickers are wanting to cross people. The big thing nobody's talking about is, where's Governor Abbott during all this? He's in India doing trade deals.
Do I need to show any more of this? So look, if you secure like a mile or even 3/4 of a mile of border along Texas, but the rest of it is still open, have you secured the border? We're being duped, folks. Moving right along to a different subject. Montana Child Protective Services medically kidnapped teen girl to Wyoming for gender-affirming care, fully revokes parental custody. In a controversial and heart-wrenching case, Montana's Child Protective Services, which is neither protective or service, has been accused of forcibly transporting a 14-year-old girl from her family, she already has a family intact, in Montana of all places. I mean, Montana, seriously? I mean, one of the most conservative places around, to Wyoming, another place that's a red state, for gender transition treatment, leading to a complete revocation of her parents' custody. So this is the state, or the government, if you will, telling the parents, you don't have custody or authority to raise your child. We, the government, are the ones with the authority to do that. Not according to God and His scriptures. And God will hold them accountable. And they are being caught, and they are being exposed for this wicked, sinister child abuse evil that they're doing. Just because they are some official agency in the government, it doesn't mean that they're good. It could mean that they're carrying out a satanic evil agenda. The family's media representative, Maddie Watkins, has disclosed a distressing account to the Gateway Pundit involving the Kolstad family of Montana. Todd and Krista Kolstad, have been embroiled in a legal and emotional struggle for their 14-year-old daughter after Montana CPS took drastic action that is tantamount to kidnapping. In April 2023, the Montana legislature passed State Bill 99, which banned the medical transitioning of minors. So these folks in CPS that did this broke Montana law in order to do it. However, a series of events unfolded in August that significantly impacted the Kolstad family. Their daughter was transported to Wyoming, a state with different laws regarding the medical transition of minors, by the Montana CPS for treatment. Quote, treatment. This is how they term things. It's not treatment. It's kidnapping and child abuse. You listening, Montana CPS? You're tuning out because you can't handle the truth. Treatment of her sudden onset gender dysphoria. Oh my goodness. Despite the parents' expressed disapproval. In August 2023, police informed the Kolstads of a text message from their daughter claiming she was suicidal. Well, I would think so, after what CPS did to her. They were notified by police that their daughter had allegedly ingested drain cleaner and taken an overdose of ibuprofen. Todd Kolstad, a U.S. Air Force veteran, said in a video, "Our 14-year-old daughter has struggled for quite some time in school from bullying." No, I don't want to get sidetracked on that, but there's a lot of bullying of white kids in school these days because, they're the original sin, the original evil for being white, right? This sinister, evil, insane cult of critical race theory right out of the Frankfurt School, out of Germany, connected with the Tavistock Institute, where they came up with all of this sinister evil that we're seeing today. We have had many meetings over the years with the school systems trying to address these issues. School systems are not going to address the issue because they are just as evil and sinister as CPS is in this story. There's nothing good in a public school system today. Nothing. They're totally useless. They're not worth anything. Let me give you one more quote. "We've even moved from Flathead County in West Montana to a much smaller town in Valley County in East Montana, hoping that this will give our daughter a fresh start in a new school system." If it's a school system in the public school system, you can't trust it. I don't care where it is. And new environment. On August 18, 2023, we received a call from our local city police. We were informed that our 14-year-old daughter was texting a friend that she had met at a school track meet, saying she wanted to kill herself. It should be noted our daughter had only met this child once, face-to-face, several months prior, and had only phone conversations with her ever since. We took this threat seriously and spoke to our daughter. However, we knew she was struggling with anxiety since school was about to start on Monday. She's probably been targeted. She was also very angry with us because we told her she needed to put her 2-week notice in at her summer job so she could focus on starting the 9th grade. Did you ever consider homeschooling? Or maybe a school that would be safe, like a private school that you could trust? Can't trust public schools, folks. They have all kinds of sinister, evil agendas. Anyway, they said in a video, the Krista said in a video, the hospital continued to call our daughter Leo, even though she's a minor. And after I stated it's against our wishes. They tried to call her boys' names, what it was. It's against their wishes, their religion, and their core family values. The hospital told me to call their lawyer if I have an issue. Now the hospital thinks it has custody of the child and can do whatever the heck it wants. You can't trust hospitals anymore either, as they will do what the patient tells them. She's a minor. That should be going over to the adults. It seems that these days, when it comes to raising your children, it's probably a good idea to go to a lawyer and get a power of attorney that states that you have authority over that child and that you make all decisions for that child. Now you have something you can take to court and say, hey, we got this power of attorney that says we can do this. These people cannot just do whatever they want with our child. And just because they don't agree with us, because they don't like our religion or our family values or what we believe, they can't just arbitrarily say, well, we don't like your Christianity, you evil Christians, we will do what we want with your child because your child is an autonomous person and can do whatever the heck they want. This is their mentality. Well, guess what? God has other things to say about that. God says, Christ told his disciples that it'd be better that a millstone be tied around the neck of those who abuse children in the manner that CPS, the government, the school system, and this hospital have done to this 14-year-old, that a millstone be tied around their neck and cast into the sea and drowned, than to face God concerning the evil that they have committed against that child. Because the wrath of God will not be lenient, kind, or merciful when it comes to that, unless there's repentance. Quote, I said to them, according to State Bill 99, they may not, under the law, provide transgender care nor transition our child. Their response was, ready for this? They are not providing surgery or hormones, so they're operating in the gray area of the law. These hospitals, I'm telling you, Satan and satanic mentality, evil has taken over these hospitals. You can't trust them. I further explained that my understanding of the law was a minor is a minor. And there's no difference between a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old, and we prefer to be called by her birth name. So there you go. So beware, parents. This is what I'm saying about protecting your children, not only from the cartoons, but also from the school system, from the government, from the hospitals. Anyone of that nature that has a sinister and evil agenda to indoctrinate your child and to forcibly cause your child to do things that are sexually perverse, evil, and so forth, we have to get smart and figure out good ways of protecting that child. I mean, with the attitude of this hospital, I wonder if they'd even recognize a power of attorney. But at least if you have a power of attorney, you have something that you can stand on and try to bring legal pressure down upon that hospital. And plus, if you have a power of attorney, now they violate it, and plus they have violated the law. They're trying to, give some watered down interpretation of that law. I would go get the lawyer or go to the ALCJ, the American League of Crime and Justice, or whatever, the Justice League or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. ALCJ, the American Law and Justice. Anyway, they take cases like this, and they'll fight for you. But I would get an attorney and go after them. I'd sue the living daylights out of them and go after them. We cannot allow them to get away with this stuff anymore. Well, just as evil is trying to destroy families and destroy morality and destroy ethics and destroy virtue and anything that looks like it's godly or it has anything to do with Christianity in America. They're happening in Brazil as well. A Brazilian political storm. Bolsonaro's son, now Bolsonaro is that populist, conservative president of Brazil that won his election recently, and or is he a former president? I'm trying to remember, but anyway, I know he is one of the good guys. He has Christian values, and he was either president or former president. Anyway, his son is targeted in a federal police raid. 2 Bolsonaro deputies also targeted, just like the Democrat Party here at home. Carlos Bolsonaro, a Rio de Janeiro city councilman. Okay, I thought he was, and son of former, that's it. So the son is a city councilman, and the dad is the former conservative Brazilian president. It became the target of a search and seizure operation conducted by the federal police on Monday, January 29. Law enforcement agents carried out the operation at both his residence and preliminary office. So just like they're trying to go after Trump, just like they're trying to go after anybody who is of good moral character here in the United States, they're doing the same thing in Brazil. The New World Order is worldwide, and they pull this kind of evil garbage all around the world. Victor Davis Hanson slams the baffling ruling in the E. Jean Carroll case against Trump. Now, of course, this judge was corrupt as could be, and he allowed the prosecution to have anything they wanted to present in the trial and restricted Trump's defense attorneys from presenting anything in defense of Trump. So it was a very, very tilted, one-sided view, and the jury can only consider what the judge would allow them to consider. So the judge is the one who is corrupt here. I don't know if he was paid off. I don't know if he was threatened. I don't know if he was blackmailed, or if it's just political bias. But that trial was a miscarriage of justice. Conservative historian, and by the way, Trump will never pay that $83 million. It's not going to happen. He's going to appeal. This thing's going to be thrown out. And I hope that judge comes up on ethics violations and loses his law license. Conservative historian and scholar Victor Davis Hanson recently wrote about the E. Jean Carroll ruling against Trump, taking special aim at changes in New York law that took place prior to the case, and pointing out that this is just one piece of endless lawfare. The left is aiming at Trump, just like they're doing after going after Bolsonaro in Brazil. Hanson calls the case baffling and notes the inconsistencies in Carroll's story. Yeah, there's all kinds of inconsistencies, but those inconsistencies were not allowed in court for the jury to see. The dress she claimed she was wearing at the time of the incident didn't even exist at the time. She couldn't remember a day, a time. She couldn't remember hardly any details concerning this incident she's claiming against Trump. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, it's any good detective, any street cop could look at that and say, oh, this lady's lying. She's lying through her teeth. Hanson put his thoughts in a lengthy post on Twitter. The civil suit serves as a mere preview of 4 additional left-wing criminal prosecutions, left-wing judges, and left-wing juries to come, all on charges that would never have been filed if Trump either had not run for president or been a liberal progressive. Anyway, there's all kinds of inconsistencies in the case. And at the time, there's all these tweets going out where she was making all these sexual innuendos and so forth. And she was on one of the talk shows during the time that apparently this incident with Trump occurred, right around that time, saying basically saying that women find rape exciting. I mean, it was something of that nature. I mean, what she said was just outrageous. So this lady is whoop, 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 whoop. She's a wacko. And Trump pointed that out, and she got mad and sued him for defamation. And of course, they're going after Trump. And this is not going to stand. This will go by the way of the transistor radio. All right, that's all I have. So let's. There's one more thing I wanted to talk about. When I go to, I was looking at YouTube this morning, and there was a theme that popped up continuously on YouTube, and that is that 2024 is going to bring, let me bring it over here, 2024 is going to bring an economic crash. I must have seen 10, 11, maybe 12 videos talking about this. The housing market, they're predicting 2 million foreclosures this year. The car market is crashing. Nobody's buying cars. Nobody can afford the prices. The cars are jacked up way too high on the price. And so people can't afford them. Repossessions of vehicles are sky high. Banks are not loaning as much as they used to because the banks are getting hit because they loaned all this money out for people to buy cars, and then people in droves were not able to pay the loans, and so repossessions, banks are getting, they're looking like a used car lot with all these repossessed vehicles. And the vehicles are not selling for any kind of a good price. So the banks are getting hit. So indicators are showing that car market's going to crash, housing market is going into the downfall, and people are strapped for cash. The credit card companies, and this is what I from my research this morning, the credit card companies are saying that people aren't using their credit cards that much anymore because they're maxed out and they can't pay the bills. I mean, they can barely make the minimum payment. And so the credit card saying, what companies are saying, we're not going to extend your credit any further. We're just going to take the loss. Of course, credit cards never take the loss. I mean, they're charging outrageous interest. Scripture calls that usury, and it says that it's not right. But indications are the economy is going to come down like this in 2024. And that's going to help Trump even more. Trump looks like a victim. He's looking like a martyr from what they're doing. And Soros is trying to flood Texas with across the border with Hispanics and others, trying to bring voters into Texas, illegal voters into Texas, and turn Texas blue. To his shock and surprise, Hispanics overwhelmingly are polling for Trump, not for Biden. So the only thing he succeeded in doing was to increase Trump's voter base and making Texas even more red. Everything these guys try to do backfires on him. Fani Willis, 22 charges against her. She's the one in Georgia that was trying to try Trump, and of course she got caught in corruption, hiring her lover to do the investigation, ethics violations up galore, and these charges are such that she could go to prison for what she did. So the boomerang's coming back around. Things are beginning to crash down on top of the heads of those who are trying to use corruption and evil to attack those who are just trying to do the right thing. So let me read it to you once again before we close up the video. If I can find it. Okay, this is Proverbs 29:16 if you want to look it up. When the wicked are multiplied, transgression increases. We've seen that, right? We've suffered through that. But the righteous shall see their fall. And we're starting to see that. We're now beginning to see the fall of the wicked. Let's hope we continue to see it. And by the way, this is not any kind of a... Somebody's going to see that. I did that. And they're going to say, oh, he's Masonic. He's evil. He's this or that. No, I just felt like putting my fingers here. It didn't mean anything. Some of you folks need to kind of settle down. Every little tiny subtlety that people do, doesn't mean that there's some sinister evil behind it, okay? You got to calm down and really rationally and, carefully think through things so that you don't get caught up in the hype. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Stay in the Word. Stay true to Christ, and He will stay true to you. And I'll see you next time on the C-Files.